Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Can't wait to get into today's topic. It's going to be a training Thursday, and hopefully you've been seeing it, but more and more people now are giving credence to the fact that we need to be doing cardio, that it can't just be weight training. Now, again, for the longest time, I do have to say that I was definitely a weights over cardio believer. And the reason that I was, and it's not that I still don't believe this because it is a fact, that if you're looking to transform your body, meaning like you're looking to reshape it, weights over cardio, absolutely. Like it's going to be able to boost your metabolism in terms of creating muscle mass for the short term and long term. You're going to be able to improve better overall metabolic rate. It's fantastic. But what I overlooked, and again, I was in my early 20s when I was first creating a lot of these body transformation-based programs. But really what I overlooked, and I think most people do when they're in their early 20s, I think that that's just kind of par for the course. You think you'll live forever, is that for longevity purposes, we need cardio as much as we need weight training. And again, sometimes as like the strength and conditioning specialist in me, that I don't love that fact. You know, I would rather lift weights than I would rather go out for a run. But that doesn't matter what I would rather. It really doesn't. What our bodies need is a balance. And of course, you know, that makes sense to me. So coming from someone that's, very integrative and believes in Ayurvedic medicine and traditional Chinese medicine and bioregulatory medicine and functional medicine, all these different things. Yeah, we need balance. That's really what the body needs, is that it needs to come to a point of what's called dynamic equilibrium or homeostasis. And so if we're always revving up our bodies with weight training, with HIIT training, with metabolic conditioning, Metcon workouts, sprints, like those types of things, although I will be talking about sprints here today, we lose sight of the fact that our cardiovascular system, although it can improve with weight training, that is true, we do not get the capillary density, we do not get the oxygenation of the tissues, and we do not get the movement of actual fluid through the body the same way we would without cardio versus weights. So what I want to do is give you a couple tips here today. I'm going to be going much more in depth with my HPH training programs. And again, even though there'll be a specific course that I'm creating for that, or will have, and it might already be out by now, depending on when you're listening to this, as well as certification, is that I want to go in depth. I want to go in depth for the people that really want to know, how can I how can I drop my biological age in half from my chronological age? What is that going to take? What does it look like keeping my body healthy now so that in 10 to 15 years from now, when we're able to reduce brain and biological age by 50%, that we can do that, right? Because these things they're on the time horizon. We know right now we are able to lower our biological versus chronological age. We've also seen in labs studies, again, it has not been translated to humans yet, that we're able to extend lifespan by anywhere from like 10 to 15%. Okay, well, if we took the average individual, 77 years old, we add another 7 to 10 years of life. Okay, so now we're at about 90 years old. Like we should all be able to get that as a baseline. But if you're keeping yourself healthy, okay, now what does that look like? Could that be 100? Could it be 110 without having to do a lot more magical? And what I'm telling you right now is that on the horizon, just within the next 10 to 20 years maximum, we're going to be able to dramatically improve lifespan, but what I want to work on you through right now is improving health span. That means the ability to stay healthier for longer, not getting you sick in your 50s and 60s or 70s, staying healthy through your 70s, 80s so that you're able to take advantage of all these lifespan extending modalities that are coming down the pipe. So one of those is cardio. We need to talk about that here today. It really came to the forefront when I was studying telomeres, and how to increase telomerase. It's basically an enzyme that helps to increase the telomere length, which is simply the end caps on the end of the DNA. The best analogy I've ever heard, and I wish I could give this person credit, is that you want to think about your shoelaces. Your shoelaces typically have that plastic cap at the end that keeps them from fraying, right? Well, think about that. Over years and use of your sneakers, the plastic can begin to fray. When that, like your telomere, begins to fray, cells do not replicate properly, and we begin to age at a much more rapid rate. So I did a whole podcast. I'm going to link it up here. It's probably going to be a blast from the past, probably like 3-4 years ago, but it's not going to change. Again, these things are really important. I gave you some different ways to improve telomere length. Okay, so one of those ways, though, is through cardiovascular training. Believe it or not weight training, but cardiovascular training. That does not mean that weight training is not important. However, for the longevity purposes and that of our telomeres, which is just one factor in longevity, is that we want to improve that. So again, I just want to state this. I think it's important to have both weight training and cardio. How many days a week of cardio? 2 to 3. 2 to 3 is ideal. Walking every day, we'll talk about that. So whenever it comes to an aerobic training, even anaerobic, think of like weights, and aerobic, think of more cardio. So we'll talk about like walking and jogging and running and rowing and cycling. All those things are great cardio, right? So, and even swimming is kind of a bit of a hybrid depending on the pace that you're going at. You always want to think about frequency. Frequency just means how often am I doing the thing, right? So for weight training, I typically say no more than 2 days in a row, 3 days max, depending on your age, depending on your maturity with lifting, like how long have you been lifting weights for. Most people do really well with like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday weight training routine. That's perfect for most people, right? So that's frequency. Duration is just how long is it, right? So let's say that Monday, Wednesday, Friday was your weight training. Okay, well, maybe you're doing like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday or so is your cardio, right? Like you could do that frequency wise. And I'm going to make this a little bit simpler in a moment just as well. But duration then is like, well, how long are you going for a jog? How long are you going for a bike ride? Is it 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, etc.? That's your duration, right? And then intensity. We'll be going through that. That's specifically what we're talking about here today, the zones, right? The heart rate zones is what I want to give you with cardio, because it matters, because we don't always want to be in zone 4 or 5, because in our Western-based mindset, a lot of times we think, well, if zone 1 and 2 are good, I should be in zone 4 and 5 every day. And that's actually not the case. It's the reverse of what we're looking for. So we're going to chat about that. So here's the thing. The intensity is simply how hard you're pushing yourself. That's it. And it's not always best, believe it or not, to push yourself at 90 to 100% intensity. All right, so there are 5 main zones of cardio. When I did an interview on this, and the person who's really, really knowledgeable just wasn't as familiar with zones of cardio, I was like, oh, this is an interesting topic then to go a little bit more in depth, because I think it's important for everybody to know zones, because it's one that you can even use whether you have a heart rate monitor or that you are maybe just using rate of perceived exertion, which just means how hard do you think you're working out? And we'll go through both right now. So Zone 1, remember, there are 5 zones. Zone 1 is very light. It's 50 to 60% of your max heart rate. You might be saying to yourself, well, I have no idea what my max heart rate is. Okay, that's not a problem. So this is the easiest way to calculate it, and it's pretty accurate for most people. It's not as accurate for people that are really deconditioned or really in shape, kind of like BMI, right? Like it's like if you're really in shape, BMI doesn't count as much, but for the general population, it's pretty good. So it's 220 minus your age. That's the standard, pretty easy. I mean, you can play with it a little bit, but that's pretty much it. So if I always give 40 years old because I like to I like to keep it super simple. So it's like 220 minus 40. Okay, your max heart rate is 180. All right. That's it. So now what's 50% of 180? 90, right? And then it gets harder, a little bit more complicated if you do with 60% of 180, but we can just kind of round up to, a little bit, and we can say, oh, it's somewhere around 110, right? So somewhere around there is going to be your zone 1, right? It's going to be somewhere between 90 and 110, and that's it. So like that is what we're looking at for very light cardio. Well, what would constitute very light cardio? This is really just going out for a walk. What would hit 90 for most people? Well, it really depends on like what's your resting heart rate, right? What's your fitness level? But for most people, a light walk, it'll get their heart rate up somewhere around 90. My heart rate gets right around 90 when I go for just like a normal light walk, maybe just a little bit more, but right around there. And so that's typically zone 1. You're going to be able to carry on a very comfortable conversation. When I do my walks in the morning, I always talk about that, my walk and talks with my team from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. I do 2 different calls with 2 different team members. I'm walking and talking, and I can have a comfortable conversation, almost never really having to catch my breath, and heart rate somewhere right around there in the low 90s, right around 90. That's about it. All right, so zone 2 is going to be, so that's considered very light, zone 1. Zone 2 is considered light. Doesn't really matter what you call it, honestly. Heart rate's going to be between 60 and 70%. So now, we're looking at around 110 to 130-ish, right around there. I can pull out a calculator and actually give you that in case you're right around 40 years old. This may be helpful. So all you need to do is, we got the 18, we've got that, we multiply by 7, we're at 126, right? So then if we do 6 times the 18 for 180 being your max, we're at 108. So 108 to 126, that's that zone. All right, so that means that we're gonna take a little bit more than walking, right? Like, let's think about it. In order to get your heart rate above 108, it's gonna take probably a light jog for most people, or what they call power walking. And I still see people out there power walking. Power walking is a legit form of cardio. It's just like, if I'm going to be power walking, I always say to myself, I want to go for a light jog rather than really pump my arms. But that's okay. If you're someone with knee issues, back issues, and you want to just get out there and push yourself a little bit more, there's going to be less abrasion on the joints by power walking, really pumping your arms and squeezing your glutes and moving, than there is by actually lifting the foot off the ground and landing. There's always more kinetic stress that way. It's also good for the body if there's no injuries, because you're building up more bone density. You're helping to move the lymphatic system to a greater degree. But again, we all have to do what we're at, right? So that's a great one. So light jog, some light cycling, all of that would be the light zone of 60 to 70%. All right, that's zone 2. Zone 3 is moderate. This is 70 to 80%. All right, so we know it's 126. Let's multiply that 8 times that 18 for 40-year-olds, right? And that's 144. All right, so for me, if I'm looking at that 144, I'm older than 40 years old, but let's just say you're right around 40. All right, so here's what you're looking at. What are you going to be doing? You're going to be now pushing it towards a run. 126 to 144, I'm running. I'm not sprinting, but I'm running. And so for most people, this is going to be now a rowing machine, an upright bike, not a recumbent bike. It's hard to get your heart rate as high on that. Upright bike, rowing machine, elliptical at a very good pace, a free runner. You really have to be pushing it on the Stairmaster. That's more of a light, but you absolutely could. And like I said, that jog. So this is a really good zone to be in. This is where most of my clients would be when I was doing more like Metcon workouts, 3 exercises in a row or 5 seconds. So either a tricep or a 5 exercise circuit. I'll be teaching that in HPH as well, because in our weight workouts, we're actually getting the benefit of cardio too. That is one of the nice things about it. So really, really efficient. The problem is those sets are only lasting 3 to 5 minutes. And so it's not the same as the steady state aerobic cardio. I want to throw that out there because I want to be fair. All right, so now we're into the 4th zone, and that's 80 to 90%. Keep in mind, we were just at 144, 9 times 18, it's got to be around 170, 162. Okay, so this is challenging. 80 to 90% of your max heart rate, you're definitely at sprint level now. You're pushing yourself, whereas you would not be able to most likely complete this level of intensity for more than, let's say, 2 to 3 minutes. That's it. So maximum, usually typically right around 90 seconds at around 90%, okay? So 90 seconds, around 90%, and you'll just, think about it. That's your typical sprint-based workout, sprint interval training. It's really pushing yourself beyond high-intensity interval training. Maybe how you end your HIIT-based circuit would be at 80 to 90%, but you wouldn't be able to maintain a HIIT circuit for very long with that 80 to 90%. So more sprint interval-based, or again, kind of like an all-out exercise, that would absolutely do it. And then cycling at a fast pace, sprinting uphill, a hill workout would be that for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Or sprints on a rowing machine. Absolutely. And then heart rate, zone 5, this is the max. So literally your maximum 90 to 100%. You're at 162 to 180 if you're 40 years old. And what you are doing is an all-out sprint that you know you're not able to keep up with. So this is an all-out set that you'll only be able to complete for somewhere between about 30 and 60 seconds all out. Maybe 90 seconds if you're a well-trained athlete, but that's it. Then, because you were in the anaerobic zone as you started to move to moderate, you're definitely in the anaerobic zone in zone 4, and then you're full anaerobic, like fast glycolysis, creatine, phosphagen, phosphate-based system. Like there's not as much percentage of fat burning here. This is all out metabolic. And so this is great for the body too, but it does not, as I said, lead to then more of that anti-aging. This is more lactic acid buildup, right? Where the other is more, think about it like oxygen versus no oxygen. No oxygen as you're getting towards 4 and 5. Lots of oxygen at zones 1 and 2. So what does all of this mean? Well, to bring it kind of full circle, and the reason why I wanted to bring this up to you is that the absolute best forms of workouts include the anaerobic training. I like to do that through Metcon workouts, some HIIT in there, and I like to do it with sprint interval training on a bike. Love doing that. Now, cardio-wise, every day, walking 7,000 to 10,000 steps. That is going to decrease all risk mortality from every single dis-ease in life. It's just 7,000 to 10,000 steps a day in your light zone. Think about that. Like you're just kind of moving it above a normal pace. That's it. You're just, even in very light, you are just moving your body for 7,000 to 10,000 steps a day. I know it seems boring. I know it doesn't seem like a lot. It decreases all-cause mortality. And that's one of the reasons why people don't do it. They don't think that they're doing enough. You are. Trust me. If you're not doing anything, just start with 7,000 to 10,000 steps a day. And then after that, 2 days a week. So if you're doing your walking every day, phenomenal. This jog will count as it. It could be elliptical, it can be jogging, it could be upright bike, it could be some light rowing. I prefer the standing rather than sitting on the rowing machine. I think humans do enough sitting. So I like standing machines better. And then of course, just getting outside if you can. So going for a light jog or an upright bike or any of those things are great. And so what I want you to do is only stay in zone 2. That's it. I don't need to push to zone 3. I need to just maybe move a little bit out of zone 1. So that's 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. If you want to figure yours out, head to stevencabral.com/assessments. It's all free. All the assessments are free. And you'll be able to calculate your ideal heart rate and zone right there. Always stay on the lower end of it, right? Because you don't know yet what your fitness level is at. So, err on the side of caution. And try to get out there twice a week. So think about this. If you're doing 2 weight workouts and you pair that with 2 cardio workouts at zone 2, that's a really well-balanced program. So like Monday could be weights, Tuesday could be cardio, Wednesday's off, Thursday is weights, and then Friday is cardio. Both weight training days are full body, and then Tuesdays and Friday could be your cardio days in zone 2, and you choose. Now, that's a beginner workout, but it's a phenomenal, it's beyond walking, of course, so let's call it maybe like advanced beginner workout. I think that's appropriate. But I'll tell you right now, that'll work. That is fantastic. And only after 6 weeks or 12 weeks of that, then you can add more. You can always add more. Don't be in a rush to do 3 or 4 days a week of weight training, 3 to 4 days a week of cardio. You don't need that. Eventually, you're going to combine days anyways. You'll do 30 minutes of weights, 30 minutes of cardio maximum, right? I've got it down now to 20 minutes of weights and 20 minutes of cardio. I want to share more with you about that in my new upcoming HPH program. But I'm going to talk about it on the podcast as well. I just want to make it really clear, really concise for you. And we have all sorts of free workouts. They're literally free inside of Ayubowen. If you haven't checked it out yet, just go to stevencabral.com/Ayubowen, and that's AYUBOWAN. And I'd love to share more of those with you. So let me know if there's any additional questions. I love doing shows like this. Let me know your feedback. Leave it in the comments, and I'll talk with you soon. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp hearts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stevencabral.com/ resources.